Now in the front, please. Guys, down, please.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Good evening. Well, I have just finished testifying. I answered every one of their questions as fully as I could, based on what I knew, and what I knew is what I said in my statement this morning. I never met Jeffrey Epstein, never had any connection or communication with him. I knew Ghislaine Maxwell casually as an acquaintance, but whatever they asked me, I did my very best to respond. It was disappointing that they refused to hold a public hearing, so I wouldn't have to be out here characterizing it for you. You could have seen it for yourself. We had asked for that. We think it would have been better for the committee and its efforts to gather whatever information they are seeking. We had a bit of a challenge in the beginning because we had agreed upon rules based on the fact it was going to be a closed hearing at their demand, and one of the members violated that rule, which was very upsetting because it suggested that they might violate other of our agreements. So we had to cease the hearing for a period of time until we could get assurances that no rules would be broken going forward, and we returned to answer questions repetitively, literally over and over again. I don't know how many times I had to say I did not know Jeffrey Epstein. I never went to his island. I never went to his homes. I never went to his offices. So it's on the record numerous times. It then got, at the end, quite unusual because I started being asked about UFOs and a series of questions about Pizzagate, one of the most vile, bogus conspiracy theories that was propagated on the internet, that was serving as the basis of a member's questions to me. So I can only say that the best exchange that I had came at the very end, when, contrary to every other deposition they have taken, no Republican member asked any questions about Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell to anyone else they have deposed. And in fact, the Republican members didn't even show up for the deposition of Les Wexner. And when I said that, I had to point out that the only questions that any Republican member asked of any of the people they deposed was of former Attorney General Bill Barr, when Chairman Comer asked him about the allegations, in his view, about Russia's involvement in my election in 2016. So at the very end of this hearing, after I made that point, I want to commend Chairman Comer for raising a series of significant questions that I responded to about the nature of the investigation and the areas that I thought should be explored. So I appreciated that. I want to see the truth come out. So that was a reassuring way to end a very long, repetitive deposition.
Madam Secretary.
You spoke in your opening remarks about how heartbroken you have been for the Epstein survivors as these files have come out. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you have processed and reacted to the fact that the former president, your husband, Bill Clinton, is referencing the Epstein files numerous times, including in some photos featuring women? And how have you been personally preparing for the deposition that is coming tomorrow? Are you 100% confident that there isn't anything that the former president knows about Epstein's crimes?
I am, and I think the chronology of the connection that he had with Epstein ended several years before anything about Epstein's criminal activities came to light, and that he was charged and sadly given a sweetheart deal, which, as I said in my statement, had that not happened, perhaps his predatory behavior could have been stopped earlier. But I think it is fair to say that the vast majority of people who had contact with him before his criminal pleas in 2008 were like most people. They did not know what he was doing. And I think that that is exactly what my husband will testify to tomorrow.
Madam Secretary, do you believe this was a fair hearing? And do you still want to testify publicly, even though you gave this deposition?
Well, I'm not going to do it again. They had a chance to do it in public, and I wish they had done it in public. And I think they're making the wrong decision, avoiding doing it in public. I thought it was very repetitive. I thought that they asked literally the same questions over and over again, which didn't seem to me to be very productive. And then, as I said, toward the end, there were other questions that were totally off subject. So if they are going to fulfill their responsibilities to literally investigate the investigations, which is what they originally said was the scope of their work, I think they could have spent the day more productively.
Madam Secretary,
James Matthews from Sky News. Can I ask, why was Colin Maxwell invited to the daughter of Chelsea Clinton's wedding in 2010? She'd already been mentioned in a civil lawsuit by Virginia Chief before that. Jeffrey Epstein had already been convicted.
She came as the +1, the guest of someone who was invited.
Madam Secretary,
thank you all.
What message does it say that?
I don't know when the video will be out. I don't know when the transcript will be out. We've asked that they be out as quickly as possible, and then you can see everything. Thank you.
So Hillary Clinton, who has been giving evidence to the House Oversight Committee in Chappaqua, which is north of New York, hence all the snow that you've seen there, being questioned about what she knew about Jeffrey Epstein, and specifically to his former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. You heard our correspondent, James Matthews, asking that question at the end then about why Ghislaine Maxwell had gone to Bill and Hillary Clinton's daughter's wedding, and saying she came as a +1 for someone who had been invited, but, very disparaging about the questions she faced from Republicans on that committee, suggesting at one point she'd been asked about UFOs. They could have spent their time better. They said that elsewhere, for other people who had been deposed to give evidence, like Les Wexner, the former CEO of Victoria's Secret, the Republicans didn't even show up to the committee. She's also put out statements earlier, basically saying that this is a bipartisan process. So Hillary Clinton urging the House Oversight Committee to very quickly release the video and transcript of what happened today, suggesting that she would have liked this to be carried out in public. And it was them, the committee, the Republican members of that committee, who suggested they should not be. So fascinating to hear from her. It is, of course, the turn of her husband, Bill Clinton, tomorrow. She said a distinction must be made between those who knew Jeffrey Epstein prior to his conviction in 2008 and those who did not. including her husband, Bill Clinton, who did not know what he was up to. And she said that is the distinction that needs to be made, and that is the evidence that the former president will give tomorrow when it is his time to appear before the House Oversight Committee in Chappaqua, as I said, north of New York City. So we wait with great interest this video that will be released. Hillary Clinton certainly suggesting she was asked about Pizzagate, which is a disputed right-wing conspiracy theory, and UFOs, and suggesting that she never met Jeffrey Epstein, and urges the authorities to very quickly publish the video so people can hear her testimony. We'll be discussing this more with our correspondent James Matthews coming up next here on The Wrap. Hillary Clinton, who has been disparaging, in fact, about her fate today at the hands of the House Oversight Committee. Let's just listen to what she had to say. This, of course, about Jeffrey Epstein.
I don't know how many times I had to say I did not know Jeffrey Epstein. I never went to his island. I never went to his homes. I never went to his offices. So it's on the record numerous times.
Well, let's bring in our US correspondent, James Matthews. And of course, it is the turn of her husband, James, tomorrow. But certainly the Democrats hitting out at claims of a cover-up and, partisan politics here.
Yeah, that's right, Anna. I'm gutted, I have to say, that you didn't run my question and her answer. I asked her about Ghislaine Maxwell, which was one of the main things that the Republicans had up their sleeve going into that. 2010 wedding of Chelsea Clinton, Hillary Clinton's daughter, and Ghislaine Maxwell was there as a guest. They were going to ask her why that was, because 2010, of course, that's after Epstein was convicted first time round. That's after one of his victims, Virginia Giuffre, launched a civil legal action, and that named Ghislaine Maxwell. I asked her, why was Ghislaine Maxwell present at that wedding? We got her answer, and that was that she was there as a +1. So that's the explanation for that one, given to the Republicans who asked her inside. She was quite dismissive of the whole process, talked about how repetitive it was, talked about how they battered away at her husband, his role. What did he know? What did she know about him? It was all kind of Bill Clinton-centric. She was asked, are you 100% confident there isn't anything that the former president, her husband, knows about Epstein's crimes? Her answer was, I am. And I think the chronology of the connection that he had with Epstein ended several years before anything about his criminal activities came to light, and that he was charged and given a sweetheart deal. So Hillary Clinton, not for the first time, standing by her man. She said it was a process which, again, as I say, was repetitive. Said she was asked about UFOs towards the end of it. So, clearly she was dissatisfied with the whole process. We knew that was the case going in, and clearly didn't grow in confidence with regard to the reasons for her being there. Interesting, Anna, that she came out actually and took questions. It's all about the narrative, the way this story is told. We had the Republicans giving their version. Hillary Clinton, seasoned campaigner, wanted to put her thoughts on record in public before we report the day's events. Should be video of it being released at some point. That could take up to 24 hours. We might not even see that until Bill Clinton's given testimony, but obviously we'll bring you that when we get it.
And your question too. We're just boosting your question, which of course was critical, which is that actually Ghislaine Maxwell went to that wedding as a +1. James, thank you very much indeed for that, and a great question too.